Hi, y'all. You know what time it is? Woo! Get into it! Get into it! Yes! We're back! Hi, y'all. So, we are here with Storytime with Chris. How is it going? As always, you do not have to watch these videos when they go live. You're more than welcome to watch them in your downtime, nap time, in between time, maxing, relaxing, chillaxing time. Welcome to Storytime with Chris, where you can hear a highly animated voice bring you magical stories of fantasy, science fiction, mystery, and so much more. I actually, before I hopped on here, I went to the gym and I was watching the Golden Girls while I was working out on the treadmill. And kids, if you've never seen the Golden Girls, you need to watch it. There's a reason why they won awards almost every single season of their 7-season run from 1984 to 1991. And the only reason why I know that information is because I was born in 91 and I watched the reruns of the show when it would come on TV, because this is before streaming and YouTube and Netflix and Disney Plus and all that, so buckle up. The Golden Girls really made me look forward to getting 50 and above, 70 and above, because these are older women that just live fabulous lives. They are retired, some of them are widows, some of them are divorcees, and they get to live incredible lives. And I think that's so awesome, to enjoy life even as an older adult. I've always said this, and I've said this in a previous video, but the phrase stands true. Aging is an inevitability. Age is a state of mind, meaning it is up to you, the individual, to dictate what it is that you can and cannot do, what it is you are willing and not willing to do. So if you could be, there's a reason why people look at me and they don't believe that I'm 31 years old. I'll be 32 in October, Lord willing. And I don't look like my age or people that would be in my age group that look older. Because I take really good care of myself. I don't, do foolish things for most of the time. I drink plenty of water. I love my tea. Y'all know that. I'm always drinking tea. Today I'm sipping on vitamin water today. Because like I said, I just got back home from the gym. But I look forward to getting older, because as you get older, you gain experience, wisdom, a better perspective on life. And as I've gotten older, I've learned to appreciate my quiet time, my simplicity, my reserved energy, because it just makes me look forward to each day being a new experience, if that makes sense. You'll learn as you get older, children. You will. Because there's nothing wrong with getting older. All of us have to go through it. There's no matter what science can come up with to try to reverse aging or stall the aging process, aging is part of life. But you can still be as lively as you were in your 20s and teens while you're 50 and 60 and 70. Obviously, take care of yourself, work out, eat right. You know what you're supposed to do. So, keeping that in mind, we're going to be going back into the Black Cauldron. Ooh, and I'm pretty sure we're about to meet my... Oh, okay, so it's not this chapter, but the following chapter. We get to meet my favorite characters in fiction, my favorite ladies in fantasy. I'm not going to spoil it, but just know it's going to be great. It's going to be great. All right. I got my glasses cleaned, so we are ready. And no, I do not own the music you are listening in the background, which is brought to you by TPR. Check them out. Melancholy Music. Definitely check them out. They do a lot of amazing covers. Okay. Chapter 10. The Marshes of Morva. From the moment the marsh bird appeared, Taran led the companions swiftly, following without hesitation a path which now seemed clear. He felt the powerful muscles of Melanlas moving beneath him and guided the steed with unaccustomed skill. The stallion responded to this new touch on the reins with mighty bursts of speed, so much so that Luogor could barely keep pace. Fluter shouted for Taran to halt a bit and let them all catch their breath. Gurgi, looking like a wind-blown haystack, gratefully clambered down, and even Ilanwe gave a sigh of relief. "Since we've stopped," Taran said, "Gurgi might as well share out some food, but we better find shelter first if we don't want to get soaked." "Soaked?" cried Fluter. "Great Beelan! There isn't a cloud in the sky! It's a gorgeous day, taking everything into consideration."
"If I were you,"
Ilanwe advised the puzzled bard,
"I should listen to him. Usually that's not a wise thing to do, but the circumstances are a little different now."
The bard shrugged and shook his head, but followed Taran across the rolling fields into a shallow ravine. There they found a wide and fairly deep recess in the shoulder of a hill. "I hope you aren't wounded," remarked Fluter. "My war leader at home has an old wound that gives him a twinge when the weather changes. Very handy, I admit, though it does seem a painful way of foretelling rain. I always think it's easier just to wait, and every kind of weather is bound to come along sooner or later." "The wind has shifted," Taran said. "It comes from the sea now. It's restless, with a briny taste. There's a smell of grass and weeds, too, which makes me think we aren't far from Morva. If all goes well, we may reach the marshes by tomorrow." Soon after, the sky indeed clouded over and a chill rain began pelting against the hill. In moments it grew to a heavy downpour. Water coursed in rivulets on either side of their shelter, but the companions remained dry.
"Rise, master," shouted Gurgi. "Protect us from slippings and drippings."
"I must say," the bard remarked, "you foretold it exactly." "Not I," Taran said. "Without Adion's clasp, I'm afraid we'd have all been drenched." "How's that?" asked the perplexed Fluter. "I should think a clasp would have anything to do with it." As he had explained to Ilanwe, Taran now told the bard what he had learned of the brooch. Fluter cautiously examined the ornament at Taran's throat. "Very interesting," he said. "Whatever else it may be, it bears the bardic symbol. Those 3 lines like a sort of arrowhead." "I saw them," Taran said, "but I don't know what they were." "Naturally," said Fluter. "It's part of the secret lore of the bards. I learned that much when I was trying to study for my examinations." "But what do they mean?" Taran asked. "Excuse me."
"As I recall,"
put in Ilanwe,
"the last time I asked him to read an inscription—"
"Yes," said Fluter with embarrassment. "That was something else again. But I know the bardic symbol well. It is secret, though since you have the clasp, I don't suppose it could do any harm for me to tell you. The lines mean knowledge, truth, and love."
"That's very nice," said Ilanwe, "but I can't imagine why knowledge, truth, and love should be so much of a secret."
"Perhaps I should say unusual as much as secret," answered the bard. "I sometimes think it's hard enough to find any one of them, even separately. Putting them all together, and you have something very powerful indeed." It's true. Love is one of the greatest forces in the universe. It's one of the most powerful things in the world. And it can change lives, continents, principalities, and so on. At least that's what I believe and know from experience. Love is an incredibly powerful thing. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. Taran, who had been thoughtfully fingering the clasp, stopped and looked about him anxiously. "Hurry," he said. "We must leave here at once."
"Taran of Caer Dallben," Ilanwe cried, "you're going too far. I can understand coming out of the rain, but I don't see deliberately going into it."
Nevertheless, she followed, and the companions at Taran's urgent command untethered the horses and ran for the hillside. They had not gone 10 paces before the entire slope, weakened by the downpour, collapsed with a loud roar. Gurgi yelped in terror and threw himself at Taran's feet.
"Oh, great, brave, and wise master! Gurgi is thankful his poor tender head is spared from terrible dashings and crashings."
Fluter put his hands on his hips and gave a low whistle. Well, well, fancy that. Another moment and we'd have been buried for good and all. Never part with that clasp, my friend. It's a true treasure. Taran was silent. His hand went to Adion's brooch, and he stared at the shattered hill slope with a look of wonder. The rain slackened a little before nightfall. Although drenched and chilled to the bone, the companions had made good progress by the time Taran allowed them to rest again. Here, gray and cheerless moors spread before them, wind and water, and worn crevices in the earth like the gougings of a giant's fingers. The companions made their camp in a narrow gorge, glad for the chance to sleep, even on the muddy ground. Taran drowsed with one hand on the iron brooch, the other grasping his sword. He was less weary than he had expected, despite the grueling ride. A strange sense of excitement thrilled him, different from what he had felt when Dallben had presented him with the sword. However, his dreams that night were troubled and unhappy. At first light, as the companions began their journey again, Taran spoke of his dreams to Eilonwy. "I can't make no sense of them," he said with hesitation. "I saw Illidir in mortal danger. At the same time, it was though my hands were bound and I could not help him."
I'm afraid the only place you're going to see Illidir is in your dreams,
replied Eilonwy.
There certainly hasn't been a trace of him anywhere. For all we know, he could have been to Morva and gone, or not even reached the marshes in the first place. It's too bad you didn't dream of an easier way to find that cauldron and put an end to all of this. I'm cold and wet, and at this point I'm beginning not to care who has it.
That actually sounds like me on a bad day. I'm just saying. Actually, I think that's all of us on a bad day where we've had enough, where we're fed up. It just happens. I dreamed of the cauldron, too, Taran said anxiously, but everything was confused and cloudy. It seems to me we came upon the cauldron, and yet, he added, when we found it, I wept. Eilonwy, for once, was silent, and Taran had no heart to speak of the dream again. Shortly after midday they reached the marshes of Morva. Taran had sensed them long before, as the ground had begun to turn spongy and treacherous under the hooves of Melilas. He had seen more marsh birds and had heard far in the distance the weird and lonely voice of a loon. Ropes of fog twisting and creeping like white serpents had begun to rise from the reeking ground. Now the companions halted and stood in silence at a narrow neck of the swamp. From there the marshes of Morva stretched westward to the horizon. Here huge growths of thorny furze rose up. At the far side, Taran distinguished meager clumps of wasted trees. Under the gray sky, pools of stagnant water flickered among dead grasses and broken reeds. A scent of ancient decay choked his nostrils. A ceaseless thrumming and groaning trembled in the air. Gurgi's eyes were round with terror, and the bard shifted uneasily on Luagor.
You've led us here well enough, said Eilonwy, but how do you ever expect us to go about finding a cauldron in a place like this?
Taran motioned her to be silent. As he looked across the dreaded marshes, something stirred in his mind. Do not move, he cautioned in a low voice. He glanced quickly behind him. Gray shapes appeared from the line of bushes strangling over a hillock. They were not two wolves, as he had thought at first, but two huntsmen in jackets of wolf pelts. Another huntsman in a heavy cloak of bearskin crouched beside them. The huntsmen have found us, Taran went on quickly. Follow every step I take, but not a motion until I give the signal. Now he understood the dream of the wolves clearly and knew exactly what he must do. The huntsmen, believing they could take their prey unawares, drew closer. Now! Shouted Taran. He urged Melilas forward and galloped headlong into the marshes. Heaving and plunging, the stallion labored through the mire. With a great shout, the huntsman raced after him. Once Melilas nearly foundered in a deep pool, the great strides of the pursuers brought them closer, so close that in a fearful backward glance, Taran saw one of them, teeth bared in a snarl, reached out to clutch the stirrups of Luagor. Taran spun Melilas to the right. Luagor followed. A shout of terror rose behind them. One of the men, clad in wolfskin, had stumbled and pitched forward, screaming as the black bog seized and sucked him down. His two comrades grappled each other. striving desperately to flee the ground that fell away under their feet. The huntsman in bearskin flung out his arms and scrambled at the weeds, growling in rage. The last warrior trampled the sinking man, vainly seeking a foothold to escape the deadly bog. Melonlas galloped onward. Brackish water spurted at his hooves, but Taran guided the powerful stallion along what seemed a chain of submerged islands, never stopping even when he reached the far side of the swamp. There, on more solid ground, he raced through the furze. Okay, this is a very interesting word. It's Furze. So I would imagine the pronunciation would be furze or furze. I'm assuming it's furze. And beyond the clump of trees, while Luagor pounded after him, Taran followed a long gully toward the protection of a high mound. Suddenly he reined in the stallion. At the side of the mound, almost a part of the turf itself, rose a low cottage. It was so cleverly concealed with sod and branches that Taran had to look again to see there was a doorway. Circling the hill were tumble-down stables and something resembling a demolished chicken roost. Taran began to back Melonlas away from this strange cluster of buildings and cautioned the others to keep silent.
I shouldn't worry about that,
Eilonwy said.
Whoever lives there surely heard us coming. If they aren't out to welcome us or fight with us by now, then I don't think anyone's there at all.
She leapt from Melonlas and made her way toward the cottage. Come back! Taran called. He unsheathed his sword and followed her. The bard and Gurgi dismounted and drew their own weapons. Alert and cautious, Taran approached the low doorway. Eilonwy had discovered a window half hidden by turf and grass and was peering through it.
I don't see anybody,
she said as the others came up beside her.
Look for yourself.
For the matter of that, said the bard, ducking his head and squinting past Eilonwy, I don't think anyone's been here for quite some time. So much the better. In any case, we'll have a dry place to rest. The chamber, Taran saw, indeed seemed deserted of inhabitants, at least for the room was even more heaped up and disorderly than Dalbin's. In one corner stood a wide loom with a good many of the threads strangling down. The work on the frame was less than half finished and so tangled and knotted he could imagine no one ever continuing it. Broken crockery covered a small table. Rusted and broken weapons were piled about it. How would you like it, asked a cheerful voiced Taran, if you were turned into a toad and stepped on? And that is where we will end for tonight. I'm telling you, I'm bringing the bacon next time on Wednesday when we come back for Black Cauldron. Because I'm telling you, the characters you're about to meet in this next chapter are iconic in my mind. I definitely believe they deserve to be. For my Kingdom Hearts fans out there, I definitely believe these characters need to be in a Kingdom Hearts game at some later point. And if you've seen Disney's The Black Cauldron, which is a loose adaptation, and I say loose adaptation because it kind of combines the elements of the first book and this book. If you've seen that movie, you know who I'm talking about. If you know, you know. Okay? All right, y'all. Have a great night, and I'll see you next time. Be good. See ya.